people, welcome to the channel. I'm the self-proclaimed Blue Dragon, bringing you part 2 of the influence of the Irish and Gaelic within the free Not Safe for Work webcomic, Dark Horse. Links for that are all down in the description. I welcome all adult viewers to sit back and enjoy this bit of babble as we delve deeper into those influences. And since it's free, I certainly do encourage you to go check out my comic. In the background, I am coloring the character Kanma. I've fallen behind on doing my cast page, so I thought I'd take this opportunity to work on her. She is one of 3 characters I will be discussing in this video. Quick announcement, Comic Fury Zine will begin accepting applications for the Summer Not Safe for Work zine starting April 1st. No joke. It's not a joke. So if you have a naughty or particularly violent or gory comic that is hosted on Comic Fury, make sure you're keeping an eye on the forums. I'll also put the link down in the description once I create it, but we are accepting submissions. Now, it is not safe for work, but we do still have to abide by Comic Fury guidelines. Also, a personal preference of mine, I don't care, there's no debate on this, I will not allow any type of hate speech. You can have sex, you can have nudity, you can have gore. There is no hate speech allowed in it because I personally don't support it and I don't want to spread that shit. So yeah, that is a type of censorship, but if you don't like that, you don't have to apply. Now, that said, if you do have a conservative-leaning comic, whether or not I agree with you or not, you know, as long as you don't have hate speech and shit in it, we aren't gonna, like, reject people for that. Also, quick correction to last week's video. At the 15-minute, 20-second mark or thereabouts, I accidentally said that Osheen was born in Ireland when I meant he was born in Northern Ireland, although his parents hail from Ireland, which I'll get into in another video. Anyhow, let's get on with this. Last week I opened this 2-part video with a recap of St. Patrick's Day, a little bit of Irish American history, just a little bit, and also talked about what the holiday means to me and why I find it important within my own background. I also gave a brief introduction of the character Osheen, who is from Dark Horse. This week I want to continue down this rabbit hole of bringing a touch more light on Osheen. I don't want to do a deep delve yet, but I want to talk a little bit more about him as well as 2 other characters that were influenced by the Irish or Gaelic. I keep saying Irish and Gaelic specifically because they're not influenced by modern day Ireland, which is not the fantasy that a lot of Americans have about Ireland, but more so harkening back to like a lot of the mythologies and stories and you know, things of that nature which have influenced me. I will have to be a bit vague when I'm discussing the 3rd character because too much will be spoiled if I go into too much detail about her. I've talked about her several times in my videos. You'll see who it is whenever I get there, but I do have to still keep it vague to not make spoilers. So. Alright, Osheen is one of the first 4 characters that we ever meet in Dark Horse. He's there from Act 1. As a refresher for those of you who maybe haven't read it in a while, or if you have not read the comic at all, what are you waiting for? It's free, go check it out. But I'm going to show our first introduction to the dude himself. I've kind of been doing this Osheen teasing, that's why I don't want to go into a deep delve yet, because we really don't know too much about him, but I am going to kind of gloss over him a bit real quick here. Osheen's full name is Robert Osheen Gallagher. His father and mother named him after the political activist Robert Sands and the legendary hunter Osheen from the old tale of Tir na nO. If you want to know more about both Robert Sands and the legend, then check out the Wikipedia articles down in the description. His parents were fairly politically active, however, his dad went missing when he was a baby, and his mother, in order to support their son, she moved from Belfast, Northern Ireland, where he was born, to Glasgow, Scotland, where she had relatives, siblings, who could help her raise him, both financially and, you know, just support family in general. They were supporting each other. He had a fairly happy upbringing, aside from the loss of his father, but when he gets into his teens, his dad actually resurfaces, and turns out he had been gone for, like, political reasons, like he placed the party over his family. So Osheen becomes a bit rebellious because he doesn't really know how to deal with that. And he drops out of school and he joins a punk rock band with his friends. The name of the band is Meat Shoot. Oh, the stupidest fucking name ever. It's fun, I think. And he joins it with his best friend Hamish and Sadie. So here's a picture of them performing right there. They eventually decide to leave Scotland for the US, trying to make it big, but they eventually break up, as do a lot of fledgling punk groups, and any group in general. He ends up floating around a bit before making his way to California, where he's still trying to make it in the music industry. He primarily is a backup bassist for live performances. He is left-handed. That's my little nod to Paul McCartney. Gotta get the Beatles in there as many places as I can without hammering you over the head. But obviously he's not making a lot of money, so he's also a part-time bouncer at nightclubs. A lot of times the nightclubs that, he performs at. He makes his way up to Oregon following the plague, and he joins the fight against the faction. That's how he gets to know Kanma and company, and I'm going to leave his story at that for now. Next character I want to talk about is the one I'm working on in the background, Kanma. She has a very complicated background. I did do a more in-depth video about her background back in August of 2019, so if you want to know her full background, check out that video. I'll put it in the iCard, link in the description if this is on BitChute. But I don't want to just rehash that part of her background, though I do have to talk a little bit about her. She is the fairy who gave the Dark Horse prophecy. She's part Indian and Celtic fairy, which is why I draw her wearing Celtic-inspired clothing. This isn't that she's rejecting her Indian heritage or anything like that. She is, by this point, centuries old. She was born in 1818. And in 1918, when there was a weakness in the Vale, her mother, her biological mother, who is a fairy. It's a made-up name, but I named her Liara. It's spelled L-I-A with a little dash over it. I don't know that word. It's called L-I-A with a dash R-E. But her mother brings her into the world of the Fae. And so by this point, she's so far disconnected from anything of her birth and her mother and father that, when in Rome. So I draw her wearing the Celtic-inspired clothing. It's probably more fantasy-leaning since we're talking about fairies and shit. You can smudge a little on the rules when you're making shit up, right? But I did want to show how the centuries of living in the world of the Fae influenced her and her culture, and thus how she dresses. So she still does remember her mother and father, her human mother and father, but it's like I said, it's been centuries by this point. She still loves them and misses them, but she's moved on with her life, and that's just another part of who she is. So by the time 1928 rolls around, that's the year that she gives the Dark Horse prophecy within the realm of fairy. Again, I go into a lot more detail about her in that other video, and I'll probably go into more detail about her again, but she becomes fairly close with Ozias, whom I talk about in this video. Yeah, that's all I got to say about her. Go check out the other video. I'm just plugging away. And then the last character that I want to talk about, but I gotta skirt around so much with her, I'm going to talk a little bit about Casima, whose name is intentionally not at all Gaelic sounding. That is intentional. But the castle that Ozias had helped build, when Casima is released, she takes it over, magically rebuilds it, or I'm sure she enlists help for that, but she gives it the name Kuzlan Or. I can't do it. I'm sorry. I'm butchering Gaelic. This is basically just castle gold castles. So she gives it her own name, and she names it that specifically because of who she was prior to this whole Casima thing. And that's all I can say about her, because otherwise it's going to spoil who she is and what she is and all this other stuff. I can't go too much into it, but I will say that there is a reason why I kind of reference this ivory stone, quote-unquote stone. It's an ivory bone that has been polished. It's what she was entrapped in, and that's a very important part of who she is, and it is tied into Gaelic Celtic mythology. I can't really say that much more about it, otherwise it's all gonna be spoiled. Can I say what... I can't say the name that has influenced her, because that'll just be a dead giveaway. But there's a type of demon in Gaelic mythology. She is in part influenced by the Word of Wednesday, the Olafeist. I think I'm saying that right. I'm gonna put the word up there, you can look it up. But I don't want to get into too much more detail about her, because that will be spoilers. And other than that, I talked a little bit about a lot of the background with Casima's raise to power is a combination of many different mythologies, but primarily the Scottish, Celtic, Seelie and Unseelie courts. But in this world, in my imagining of it, there's a lot more than just the Celtic fairies and fae folk in these two groups. There are more groups in this, but it's kind of like an alliance in the way that I'm viewing it within this story. So that's why you have someone like Ozias, who is clearly from the Moroccan area of the world, as part of the Seelie court. He's quite obviously not from Scotland, but he's still part of that. So this is a different take on all those mythologies and kind of mixing it together. And it's all very heavily influenced by these Celtic stories, both Irish and Scottish and Welsh, and I would say both, but like Irish, Scottish, Welsh, and even English. A lot of those old tales. So that's part 2. I could have done this last week, but I was so disorganized. I really needed to get my shit together. But the question of the week, what are some of your favorite mythologies? What part of the world are these mythologies from? And why do you like them? What got you interested in them? It's actually more than one question, but you can always expand upon that. I would answer this question, but I mean, I'm influenced by like mythologies from all around the world, and if you've been watching my videos or not reading the comics, some of it's getting in there. We're finally going to be getting into like the fae folk over on Comic Fury. Eventually, we're getting there. But you'll see these influences more so as the story unfolds, and we actually get to interact more with the fae folk. But yeah, I just want to like kind of tackle as many as I can find from around the world, because I've always found mythologies and magics to be so just, I don't know, inspirational, interesting. I don't even know how to put it. Like I keep repeating the same feelings and emotions, but I just find it so interesting and fun, and it's such a great form of escapism. And very clearly, I'm not the only one, because I mean, what the fuck? What is that? There's like a Japanese video game that like Fate Stay, I think, that like has mythologies from everywhere, not just Japan, but like everywhere. And it's like, I'm obviously not the only one who's interested in this, so I'm not doing anything new, but it is a new take on these things. So yeah, if you like what I do, if you enjoy these videos, if you want to support the struggle, support the comic, you can either buy things from my shop, you can sub, like, do the bell thing. I've got Patreon, Subscribestar, and Ko-fi links. All that shit's down in the description if you want to support indie artists such as myself. That's groovy. Also, Comic Fury is always looking, they're trying to get a new host and kind of fix some of the bog down they've had since a massive influx of users. So if you want to support Comic Fury, links for their Patreon's down in the description too. So it's not just about me, it's about the whole indie artist community. Otherwise, thank you all for listening. Tune in next week for the monthly Q&A. Peace and love. Fare you well. Keep on trucking.